Yeah, it's another video about Russia. What can I say? Honestly, I feel like this is a topic that needs more discussion. It needs more examination of where steps could be taken, what could happen, what will happen. I'm not doing the whole predicting thing, because as I said in my last video, it's it's beyond predictability anymore. You can't figure Russia out. Russia is just an enigma wrapped in a riddle, as a wise man once said. But I'm hearing what people are saying, and I saw what a lot of people were saying on social media during the coup attempt. I mean, it's not really a coup unless, the sitting party actually gets, sitting power folk get actually thrown out on their asses. But I feel a lot of people are misguided or lacking an understanding, and a deeper discussion means, even if my video just reaches 1,000 people, just a deeper discussion of what is honestly going on in Russia and Ukraine, and what will happen if certain things happen. Like, for instance, the one thing I want to start off with is people getting excited when Yevgeny Prigozhin and his private military group Wagner was storming up oblast after oblast and getting to Moscow, almost getting into Moscow. There was some sort of deal brokered. I mean, who knows if the FSB had Prigozhin's family kidnapped or threatened to blow his home city to Kingdom Come. I don't know. They said, listen, Prigozhin, I don't know if you know this, but we got a Death Star, and it's pointing at your hometown. Okay, fine, I'll turn my guys around. We'll go to Belarus. Lukashenko says he wants us to come in and sleep in his bunk beds with him. Anyway, Lukashenko, that's a whole different topic for another day. That guy doesn't... okay, again, different day. So who knows what really happened, because there was so much drive and motivation, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, we're going home. But when Prigozhin was marched up to Moscow, there was people that were genuinely excited, like, it's going to be a civil war. Oh my God, this is going to be like when Captain America went against Iron Man. It's like, no. People were excited at the notion that Putin, who I agree deserves to not have power in Russia, should get thrown out on his ass, but replacing him with Yevgeny Prigozhin, oh my God, is that a worse option? This is a guy who is just an absolute tyrant, and that's not saying Putin isn't a tyrant in comparison. Yevgeny Prigozhin is a guy who leads a group whose form of justice or sending a message is finding the enemy or someone that is in disagreement or just happens to be walking down the wrong path that day, taking them, holding them down, and smashing their head in with a sledgehammer and uploading the video to the internet. A la what you would see the Taliban do, or Al-Qaeda, whatever factions that sent messages to the Western world saying, like, if you want to go against us, we are going to go against you with the most tyrannical ways possible. We're going to find your people, take you hostage, and cut your head off and upload it to the internet. Your family is going to watch your body get beheaded. That's the tree that Prigozhin fell not too far from. He has no moral compass. He knows nothing but anger. He's a multi-time convicted felon. And again, that's not saying Vladimir is the saint here compared to him. But my God, people were getting excited that, yeah, this guy's going to come into the Kremlin, stick Putin in a cannon, and shoot his ass toward The Hague. Like, granted, I agree he probably would turn Putin over to The Hague and all his cronies, just anyone else. Any of those yes men that just told Putin whatever he wanted to hear. Oh yeah, things are going great. Oh no, we're probably stepping back to rearm our forces. We're not giving up land. It's a strategic reassignment of guys. Moskva didn't get sunk. It got promoted to submarine. Anyway, Yevgeny Prigozhin, him getting power in Russia. And what is even scary about this is the notion that he may actually run for president. People don't know this, but there's an election in 2024 for president of Russia. Now, granted, even if Prigozhin got on the ticket, if Putin and his cronies are still in power, the election's going to get rigged. So it's not like he stands a chance. But the thing is if there is honestly a deep rigging of an election, and this is going on to my next point, okay, next scenario. Prigozhin runs for president against Vladimir Putin. Election is rigged. Putin wins with 85% of the vote or something like that, something ridiculous. You're going to have outrage, rioting, insurrection. Look at what happened in Rostov-on-Don when Wagner was leaving with Prigozhin. And then look what happened when the actual police forces came back into Rostov-on-Don. The citizens booed them. They were like, boo, boo. You're part of the Kremlin cronies, boo. Like, it is clear that the populace, that when they got their ass tickled with the feather of freedom that wasn't the Kremlin's current power regime, that they got excited. And like what, Rostov-on-Don isn't that much different than any of many other areas of Russia right now? That's a large city with 1 million people in it. And everyone hates Moscow and the Muscovites, from what I hear in Russia. So if Prigozhin does run, the election gets rigged, and Vladimir's like, oh, I got 85% again. Oh boy, my country loves me. Why is there fires everywhere? So, because I hear people saying, like, this guy is going to run for president and win. He doesn't stand a chance at winning. He doesn't stand a chance at winning. Stop. Okay. So, next. What happens if it doesn't matter who overthrows the government in Russia? Okay? One of the popular theories I hear is there is a complete upheaval of power. The new whatever hierarchy comes in and takes over. One of the popular theories that I'm hearing is that Russia gets divided into nation states, separate entities, separate countries, whatever. You know, Moscow and your Muscovites, good luck. You're not getting anyone's tax dollars anymore. You're partitioned this little space up here. St. Petersburg, have fun, enjoy vacation in Europe right next door. You're in your little pocket over here. Everyone that, you know, or most of the Mongolians live in eastern Russia, you get your own state. A lot of the Georgians and Kazakhstanis that are in south central Russia, you get your own state, etc., etc. Now, here's the thing. All of these areas, as of right now, have nuclear weapons in them. Nuclear weapons that they could cause havoc against anyone with. But I know you're going to say, it's like, well, deals are going to be struck up with the Western world, kind of like when Bill Clinton and all the other Western world leaders got in Ukraine's ear, established the Budapest Memorandum, and got Ukraine to give up their nuclear weapons. Hey, there we go. Welcome. Welcome aboard to the Western acceptance democracy train. You think a single new nation state is going to give up their weapons of mass destruction of the nuclear capacity given what happened to Ukraine? Even Bill Clinton himself said he feels bad in retrospect because if Ukraine held on to their nuclear weapons, Putin and Russia would not have invaded them. Because they couldn't take that threat that Ukraine is going to be like, screw you guys, hello to the new desert country of St. Petersburg. Zap. So you're going to have these nation states that they'd be foolish to give up their weapons, any sort of mass destruction weapons, all because of what Russia did with Ukraine here. They're always going to be fearful of some uprising of Russia wanting to reconquer the good old lands. So of course they're not going. You can have up to a dozen new nations with nuclear weapons. That is a terrible idea. Now, granted, some would probably accept Western democracy and be like, okay, I don't feel like dealing with more sanctions. We want to be sanction free. We don't want to be associated with the Russia that got these sanctions dropped on our lap. We're 10,000 miles, not 10,000, but we're 1,000 miles away from Moscow. We don't want any of the sanctions that they brought upon us. Take our nukes. Some states may be like that. I get it. Okay. Again, what you're seeing here is so many people have like these rosy outcomes for scenarios, but I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's many rosy outcomes. Not to be a pessimist, but okay, next outcome. Ukraine pushes through the LPR, the DNR, the DPR, takes over Donetsk, Luhansk, every other region of the country that has Russian soldiers' boots in it right now, takes back Crimea. Now what? Well, I mean, there's a lot of hypotheticals like this. It's like, well, okay, they did that, and is Putin still in power? Is he still not in power? Because if he loses Crimea, someone is going to put a bullet in the back of his head, and it's going to be coming out of a gun. Anyway, just wanted to clarify that. This is one of the toughest. I think this is one of the toughest scenarios to even try and figure out what is most logical to happen, and that's what I'm trying to say here. Is it's not what I feel will happen. I think it's what is the most logical thing to happen when a number of these scenarios commence, and this is one where it's like I don't know if Russia gets its ass kicked back to its borders in the motherland, and especially out of Crimea, it has got to be something where it can't happen again. Now, whether that becomes Ukraine builds a wall between the two countries, but you got to think that Ukraine, the one thing that is most logical from this, if there is still tyrannical powers in charge of Russia, Ukraine is going to fortify that nation along the borderlands so severely. Well, first of all, Transnistria and the few Russians that are in Moldova right now, they're going to get their asses equally kicked and sent back to the motherland as well, probably in body bags. But the most logical thing I see is if there is still some sort of tyrannical ruling power, like a Prigozhin or a Putin, I just see Ukraine just saying, we can't take a chance being friendly with this nation again. Our borders are going to be so fortified. They're going to be permanently trenched, permanently probably mined. The Crimean Bridge, forget about that. That's gonna be sent into that's gonna be down with the Titanic. Okay, that was bad timing. Bad taste in jokes too soon. Sorry. Though I gotta say, there was one funny meme I saw from that Titan 1 submersible. Someone put the New York Mets logo on it, showed it falling into okay. I'm sorry. It's too soon. Sorry, Mets fans. Anyway, I just see it becoming such a guarded relationship between the two nations, and I don't know how it could possibly be anything other than discontent with one another. Well, not so much with Russia, because I don't think Russia has a big problem with Ukraine. Ukraine has a big problem with Russia now. Like, that's the thing. A lot of the Russians didn't want this war. They got thrown into it. Putin and all his yes men were told, Putin, they're going to love us. You know how it's funny because the way that you saw Wagner troops being treated in Rostov-on-Don specifically, of being like cheered and people just walking up to the tanks, like not being afraid. They're just like, well, like, thank you, saviors. Thank you for coming. I think that is what Vladimir Putin envisioned in like Kyiv when Russian soldiers and tanks were going to go into town. It's like, there might be some resistance, but once we get into town, they're going to like us. They're going to be like, oh, thank you. I don't know. I just see it being such a bitter hatred relationship between Ukraine and Russia unless there is some full circle tyranny, depression, degression, whatever, put every D superlative out there. Like, it would take such a cataclysmic shift in. I mean, you had to get a new constitution in Russia for Kyiv and the rest of Ukraine to ever trust Russia again. And that is a damn shame, because at least before then, before this war, there was a somewhat working relationship. Like, yeah, they weren't too pleased with the little green men that took over Crimea, but they were at least somewhat hospitable to one another. Not as much hospitable in Ukraine to Russia, and then obviously there's obviously a bitter hatred from the Soviet era times going into the little green men times going into the war now. But anyway, I just really don't see too many outcomes that are all that great. Now, granted, the one great outcome I see is if there is a complete democracy, freedom of speech, etc. type. And again, it's not saying that like, oh, I want the American way to be the way, because I don't think the American way is necessarily the end-all be-all that's going to solve all the world's problems. But you got to have a true democracy in place. There's got to be a free speech, and there's got to be a people that literally aren't that literally aren't afraid to just openly voice their displeasure. Now in Rostov, you're getting that right now, because when those cops came back after, like I said, after the Wagner troops left, they showed them like, hey, we ain't down with you clowns anymore. You know, that Prigozhin guy, we'll get him to come back and whip your guys' asses. If you're down with Vladimir, then you can bounce your ass out of here. Anyway, it is just truly astonishing. And this whole thing, I don't know how Vladimir still has power right now. I really don't. I mean, Navalny is probably, the rumors are probably true of him being under house arrest. And you gotta imagine that so many people are either going to get fired or executed in the hierarchy of Vladimir Putin right now, just to show Prigozhin that actions are being taken, people are being held accountable. Please don't come into Moscow and throw my ass into that cannon and shoot me to the Hague. Anyway, just a really fascinating time in history right now, people. I know, again, like I said in my previous videos, I know history or war might not be your guys' thing or interest, but this is such an incredibly fascinating, cataclysmic, terrifying event on so many levels. And the last situation, the what ifs happens, is the nuclear option. If nukes get launched, I mean, draw your own conclusion from that. That's just the end. Such is this part of the video.